My company was dying. I had spent 3 years building it from nothing, sleeping beside my laptop and eating whatever I could afford between meetings. Now none of that mattered. My biggest investor had walked away. 2 major clients had canceled their contracts, and the bank had given me 14 days to repay a debt I could not possibly cover. Daniel stared at the numbers on my screen. You're out of options. I know. How much? 200,000. He went silent. That much? I nodded. If I don't pay, the bank takes the company. Daniel leaned back. Then sell something. I already sold my car. Your apartment? I've got a lease. He sighed. Ethan, you can't save everything alone. I build it alone. That doesn't mean you have to die alone. I almost laughed. Then my office door opened. Sophia Sterling walked inside. I had seen her before at business events. Everyone knew who she was. She was the only daughter of Richard Sterling, one of the most powerful businessmen in the city. She was beautiful, wealthy, and almost impossible to approach. She looked at me calmly. Ethan Carter? Yes. We need to talk. Daniel immediately stood. I'll leave. Sophia stopped him. You can stay. She placed a folder on my desk. I have a proposal. I opened it. My eyes widened. A marriage agreement? 1 year, she said. I looked at her. Are you serious? Completely. Daniel stared at me like I had lost my mind. Sophia continued. My father wants me to marry Alexander Kane. I knew the name. Alexander was wealthy, ambitious, and exactly the kind of man Richard Sterling would choose for his daughter. I don't love him, Sophia said. I never will. So why me? Because you're independent. You don't need my family's approval. And most importantly, I believe you won't interfere with my life. Daniel shook his head. This is insane. Sophia ignored him. You need money. I need a husband. I looked back at the contract. What exactly are you offering? I'll clear your company's current debts. I stopped breathing for a second. And $5 million invested into your company. Daniel whispered. Ethan. I looked at Sophia. What's the catch? You marry me for 1 year. Publicly, we're a real couple. Privately, we maintain boundaries. I slowly closed the folder. You understand how this looks? A billionaire heiress marrying a struggling entrepreneur? People will call me a gold digger. They already will. Her honesty surprised me. You're not bothered? No. Why? Because I don't care what people think. She stood. Neither should you. After she left, Daniel stared at me. Don't do it. I looked at him. My employees have families. So do you. My company is everything I've built, and she's everything her family controls. I knew he was right, but I also knew what bankruptcy would mean. That night, I called Sophia. I'll do it. There was a pause. Are you sure? No. She almost laughed. Honest answer. I don't have another choice. You always have a choice. Not when 3 years of my life are about to disappear. Her voice softened. Then we'll make this work. The next morning, we wrote the rules. Separate bedrooms. No physical intimacy. No jealousy. No questions about our past. No interfering in each other's private lives. And one final rule. Absolutely no falling in love, Sophia said. I smiled. That won't be a problem. She looked at me. You're confident. I could never fall in love with someone like you. Her expression barely changed. Good. We signed the agreement. 1 week later, we stood at the altar. The wedding was enormous. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Sophia held my arm and smiled like she was completely in love with me. But when the ceremony ended and we reached our mansion, everything changed. She removed her jewelry and placed it on the table. You're in the east bedroom. I remember the rules. Good. She walked toward the hallway, then stopped. For the first time that day, she looked nervous. Ethan? Yes. She turned toward me. Her voice was quiet. Promise me something. What? She looked directly into my eyes. Promise me you'll never fall in love with me. I smiled confidently. I promise. Before she disappeared into her bedroom, I stopped her. Sophia. She turned. Why did you choose me? For a moment, her guarded expression disappeared. Because you looked at me like I was just a person. That sounds simple. It isn't. She looked toward the windows. Every man my father introduces wants something from me. My money, my family name, my position. Alexander wants all three. And you think I don't? I know you want the money. The words should have offended me, but they didn't. At least you're honest, I said. I had to be. She took a breath. My father believes marriage is a business transaction. Alexander agrees with him. If I marry Alexander, I'll spend the rest of my life becoming someone else's wife. And with me, with you, I get 1 year to prove I can choose my own future. I studied her face. You're risking a lot. So are you. She was right. I returned to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. My phone buzzed. Daniel, tell me you changed your mind. I didn't. You're married to a billionaire heiress now. Technically, yes. You realize her family can destroy you. I know. And Alexander? I know. Daniel sighed. Then promised me something. What? Don't lose yourself trying to save your company. I looked at the wedding ring on my finger. I won't. But deep down, I wondered whether surviving the marriage would be harder than surviving bankruptcy. The next morning, Sophia and I ate breakfast at opposite ends of a table large enough for 10 people. This is going to be awkward, I said. It doesn't have to be. You're my wife. On paper. And you're my investor now. No. I'm your business partner. I smiled. That sounds even more dangerous. For the first time, she laughed. It was a small sound, but it surprised me. I realized then that beneath the cold billionaire image was a woman I knew nothing about. I reminded myself of our final rule. No falling in love. Easy. At least, that was what I believed then. Or so. Living with Sophia Sterling was nothing like I expected. The mansion was enormous, beautiful, and completely silent. There were more rooms than I could count, a private gym, a library, a swimming pool, and a dining room large enough for a wedding. Yet Sophia and I spent most of our time avoiding each other. In public, we were perfect. We held hands. We smiled for cameras. We attended business dinners together. Sophia would lean against my shoulder and whisper, "Smile." I would whisper back, "I'm smiling." You look angry. I don't enjoy pretending. You're getting paid $5 million to pretend. That doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. She would hide a laugh behind her hand. But the moment we returned home, everything changed. She went to her office. I went to mine. We barely spoke. My company became my entire world. With a $5 million investment, I started rebuilding immediately. I hired new developers, contacted old clients, and negotiated with investors who had once ignored my calls. Daniel worked beside me every day. "You're finally breathing again," he said one afternoon. "I still owe the bank, but now you have time." I nodded. "I won't waste it." Meanwhile, Sophia was fighting her own battle. Her father called constantly. "Richard wants you at dinner." Again. "He says it's important." She looked exhausted. Everything is important to him. I understood what she meant. Her father didn't ask. He expected. One evening, Sophia walked into my office. "Family dinner tonight." I looked up. "Do I have to go?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because we're married." I smiled. I thought the contract only required public appearances. Family dinners are public enough. I sighed. "Fine." She turned to leave. "Ethan?" "Yes." "Wear something formal." "I own one suit." She stared at me. "Then wear that." The dinner was held at the Sterling estate. Richard sat at the head of the table. Alexander was there too. The moment I entered, I knew the evening would be unpleasant. Richard looked at me. "So this is the man my daughter married." I smiled politely. "Yes, sir." "How much did she pay you?" The table went silent. I looked at him. "Excuse me?" Richard took a sip of wine. "Let's not pretend this is a love story." Sophia's expression changed. "Dad." He ignored her. "You were nearly bankrupt when Sophia married you. Now your company suddenly has millions in funding." Alexander smirked. "It's a convenient arrangement." My jaw tightened. I didn't ask Sophia for anything. Richard laughed. "You didn't have to." Sophia suddenly slammed her hand on the table. "Enough." Everyone looked at her. Richard frowned. "What? You don't get to insult my husband. He married you for money." "No." Sophia's voice was firm. "He married me because I offered him a choice when he needed help. And I married him because I needed someone I could trust." Richard stared at her. You trust him? Yes. The word shocked even me. Alexander leaned forward. You can't seriously believe he's with you for love. Sophia looked at him. I don't care what you believe. She reached for my hand beneath the table. I chose Ethan. I looked at her. For a moment, I forgot everyone else was there. Richard stood. This marriage will end. Sophia didn't move. Then you'll have to wait. Richard left the table. Alexander followed. I remained silent. After dinner, Sophia and I walked outside. You didn't have to defend me. She looked ahead. Yes, I did. Why? Because you're my husband. That sounds like an excuse. She glanced at me. Maybe it is. I smiled. Thank you. She nodded. Don't mention it. But something had changed. The next night, I returned home late. The clock showed almost midnight. I walked into the mansion quietly. Sophia was sitting in the living room. She looked up. You're late. I stopped. Were you waiting for me? No. You were sitting in the dark. I couldn't sleep. Because of me? Don't flatter yourself. I laughed. She looked at me. How did the investor meeting go? Good. You said yesterday that the European client was worried about delivery dates. I solved it. How? I explained the new plan. She listened carefully. You changed the entire schedule? Yes. That was smart. I smiled. You remember? I remember things. About me? She looked away. Don't make it weird. I laughed. A few days later, the pattern continued. She asked about my meetings. She remembered my favorite coffee. She knew when I was tired before I said anything. And every night, when I returned home, she somehow happened to be nearby. One evening, I came home completely exhausted. Sophia was in the dining room. There you are. What's that? She pointed at the table. Dinner. For me. She immediately looked uncomfortable. I ordered too much. I stared at the food. There was exactly one plate prepared. One extra meal. I wasn't hungry. Then why is it on my side? She crossed her arms. Eat before it gets cold. I smiled. You cooked? No. You're sure? Yes. You're lying. She glared at me. Eat. I sat down. The food was surprisingly good. You're actually good at this. Don't get used to it. I might. She turned away, hiding a smile. Later that night, I fell asleep on the couch while reviewing financial documents. I didn't know how long I slept, but sometime during the night, I felt something warm covering me. I opened my eyes slightly. Sophia was standing beside the couch. She thought I was asleep. She carefully adjusted the blanket around my shoulders. Then she stood there silently. Her expression was different. Soft, confused, almost frightened. She touched my hair for a second before pulling her hand away. Why am I starting to care about you? I kept my eyes closed. I didn't move, but my heart was beating faster than it had any right to. Because for the first time, I wondered if our fake marriage was becoming something neither of us had planned. Something real. My company was finally recovering. The new investment had given us room to breathe. But money alone hadn't fixed everything. We still had deadlines, angry clients, and competitors waiting for us to fail. Fortunately, I wasn't fighting alone anymore. Emily Carter joined our development team shortly after the company stabilized. She was brilliant. She could look at a problem for 5 minutes and find an answer that had taken everyone else 5 hours to understand. More importantly, she was easy to talk to. Your presentation needs work, Emily told me one afternoon. I looked at her. That's the nicest way anyone has ever insulted me. She laughed. I'm serious. Your numbers are good, but you're explaining them like you're reading a grocery list. So what should I do? Tell a story. I smiled. You're becoming my boss. Someone has to be. Our friendship grew quickly. We ate lunch together. We discussed projects. Sometimes we'd stay late working on presentations. Nothing romantic happened between us. Emily knew I was married. I knew she was my friend. Unfortunately, Sophia didn't seem to understand that. The first sign came when she suddenly appeared at my office. No warning. No phone call. She simply walked through the door. Emily looked up. Mrs. Sterling. Sophia smiled. Emily. I leaned back. What are you doing here? I was nearby. You live 30 minutes away. I was nearby. Emily looked at me and tried not to laugh. Sophia noticed. Is something funny? No. Good. She turned toward me. What are you working on? Investor presentation. With Emily? I raised an eyebrow. Yes. Sophia nodded. Interesting. Then she sat down beside me. Emily slowly closed her laptop. I'll give you two some privacy. No, Sophia said quickly. Emily stopped. Sophia smiled. You can stay. I almost laughed. After Emily left, I looked at Sophia. Are you jealous? She stared at me. Of Emily? Yes. No. You're sure? Absolutely. Because you just interrupted a meeting. I didn't interrupt. You asked her to stay. Because I wanted to meet her properly. You've met her. Not enough. I smiled. Sophia crossed her arms. Stop smiling. Why? You look annoying. You're jealous. I'm not jealous. She stood. I came because you're my husband. Fake husband. She froze. Exactly. Then she walked out. But the next week, things became even stranger. Sophia called me during work. Where are you? My office. Who are you with? Emily. Silence. Why? Because we're working. Oh. The call ended. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Did you eat? No. You should. Are you checking on me? No. Then why? She hung up. Another day, she appeared at another business meeting. Then another. Eventually, Daniel noticed. You have a stalker. I laughed. She's my wife. That's worse. I shook my head. She says she's not jealous. Daniel smiled. That's exactly what a jealous person would say. At a charity event, the situation became impossible to ignore. Emily was standing beside me when she laughed at something I said. She lightly touched my arm. It was completely innocent. But Sophia saw it. Her expression changed instantly. Before I could react, she walked over and grabbed my hand. In front of everyone, I looked at our joined hands. Then at her. What are you doing? Smile. For the cameras? Yes. She moved closer. Remember our agreement. I whispered. Which part? The happy marriage part. I smiled. But Sophia didn't let go of my hand for the rest of the evening. When we finally returned home, I couldn't resist. So, she removed her earrings. So what? Why did you grab my hand? I told you. To protect our image? Yes. You were angry. I wasn't. You looked angry. I was tired. You were jealous. She turned toward me. Ethan. Yes. I am not jealous of Emily. Then why were you staring at her? I wasn't staring. You almost burned a hole through her. Sophia's cheeks turned pink. I was protecting our marriage. Our fake marriage. She looked away. Yes. I smiled. You're terrible at lying. She glared at me. Go to bed. Good night, jealous wife. I'm not your jealous wife. I laughed and walked toward my room. But later that night, I couldn't sleep. Something was happening between us. I knew it. The way she waited for me. The way she remembered things. The way she suddenly cared who I spoke to. And the way she held my hand as if she was afraid someone might take me away. I was beginning to feel something too. Something I had promised myself would never happen. Love. I was staring at the ceiling when I heard a quiet knock. Sophia stood in the doorway. Can I talk to you? Of course. She entered slowly. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she sat on the edge of the chair across from me. I've been thinking. About what? Us. My heart started beating faster. What about us? She looked down at her hands. If our marriage weren't fake. She stopped. I waited. She finally raised her eyes. There was something vulnerable in them. If our marriage weren't fake, would you still choose me? I couldn't answer immediately, because suddenly, I wasn't sure I knew where the pretending ended anymore. And neither apparently was Sophia. Something had changed between Sophia and me. Neither of us talked about it. But I noticed. She started sitting beside me whenever we watched movies. At first, she would choose the opposite end of the couch. Then one evening, I felt her shoulder against mine. You're taking up too much space, she said. I looked at the empty couch. There are 6 seats. I know. Then why are you sitting here? Because I want to. I smiled. Interesting. Don't make it weird. A few nights later, she fell asleep beside me. I looked down at her head resting against my shoulder. She looked peaceful. Nothing like the cold, controlled woman everyone else knew. I carefully reached for the remote. She stirred. Don't move. I wasn't. You were. Then she closed her eyes again. I stayed there. Another morning, I caught her stealing food from my plate. That's mine. She continued eating. You have your own. I don't like yours. You're literally eating mine. She smiled. Exactly. I laughed. The strangest part was how normal it felt. Our fake marriage was becoming real even when nobody was watching. One evening, I stood near the door. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Sophia looked up from her book. You're leaving? For work. But it's late. I'll be back tomorrow. She hesitated. Can you stay? I stared at her. You want me to stay? She immediately looked embarrassed. I mean, it's raining. So, you could get stuck somewhere. I have a car. Fine. She returned to her book. Go. I smiled. Good night. She didn't answer. But when I reached the door, she called me. Ethan. Yes. Stay. I couldn't help smiling. Okay. That night, I realized something. Sophia wasn't asking me to stay because of the contract. She simply didn't want me to leave. A few days later, a heavy storm hit the city. Sophia became sick. At first, she insisted she was fine. It's nothing. You have a fever. I'll sleep. You're shaking. Ethan, stop arguing. I brought her medicine and water. Then I stayed beside her. She looked at me through half-closed eyes. You don't have to do this. I know. Then why? Because you're sick. She smiled weakly. You're different. From who? Everyone. I didn't know what to say. She slowly closed her eyes. A few minutes later, her hand reached for mine. I held it. She tightened her grip. Don't go. I'm not going anywhere. She fell asleep. I stayed beside her until morning. When she woke, she immediately released my hand. Her face turned red. Did I? Yes. She looked horrified. I was sick. I know. I don't normally do that. Do what? Hold people's hands. I smiled. You held mine all night. She pulled the blanket over her face. Forget it. Too late. The next morning, Sophia was back to her cold personality. Breakfast is at 8. Yes, Your Majesty. She glared at me. Don't start. I laughed. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. Was Sophia falling for me? More importantly, was I falling for her? I refused to answer that question. Our contract still existed. 1 year. Then we would go our separate ways. At least, that was the plan. Until Alexander returned. He appeared at a business event with Sophia's father. The moment he saw her, his smile widened. Sophia. She looked uncomfortable. Alexander. He stepped closer. You look beautiful. Thank you. I've missed you. She didn't respond. Alexander glanced at me. Still playing husband? I smiled. Still pretending you don't understand the contract? He laughed. I know how this ends. Sophia looked at him. What do you mean? You'll eventually realize this marriage is meaningless. I expected Sophia to remain silent. Instead, she stepped closer to me. Alexander reached toward her arm. Sophia moved away. Don't. He frowned. You used to let me. That was before. Before what? She looked at me. Before I had a husband. Alexander's smile disappeared. You don't love him. Sophia's voice became firm. You don't get to decide that. Alexander stared at her. Your father expects. I don't care what my father expects. She took my hand. This is my marriage. Alexander looked furious. I'll see you again. You probably will. He walked away. I stared at Sophia. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? She didn't answer immediately. Then she looked down at our hands. I don't know. We returned home later that evening. Neither of us said much. I was about to walk into my room when Sophia stopped me. Ethan? I turned. She looked nervous. What? She took a breath. I don't like it. Like what? When other women get too close to you. I raised an eyebrow. She looked away. I don't know why. My heart started beating faster. Because I knew exactly what she was trying not to say. And maybe she did too. By the middle of the month, pretending had become harder than ever. Sophia started texting me throughout the day. Where are you? When are you coming home? Did you eat? At first, I thought she was joking. Then it became routine. One afternoon, I was leaving a meeting when my phone buzzed. Sophia, are you coming home tonight? I smiled. Me. Eventually. Her reply came immediately. Sophia. That's not an answer. Me. Yes, I'm coming home. Sophia. Good. I stared at the message. Why did that one word make me smile? When I got home, my favorite meal was waiting. I looked at the table. You remembered. Sophia looked up from her phone. Remembered what? My favorite food. You mentioned it once. Months ago. So you remembered. She shrugged. I remember things. She had also started buying little things I casually mentioned. A book I'd once said I wanted. A coffee machine I had admired. Even a particular brand of chocolate I liked. You don't need to keep buying me things, I told her. I wasn't buying them for you. Then why are they in my room? She froze. Coincidence. I laughed. Her behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. She even became annoyed when I worked late. One night, I returned home at nearly midnight. Sophia was waiting in the living room. You're late. I had work. You said you'd be home by 10. I know. She looked angry. Do you know what time it is? Midnight. Exactly. Were you waiting? No. You were. I wasn't. I smiled. She crossed her arms. Go to bed. Yes, ma'am. The next day, Daniel noticed my mood. You're smiling. No, I'm not. You are. Why would I be smiling? Because your wife is in love with you. I almost choked on my coffee. What? Daniel laughed. You heard me. She isn't. Ethan, she remembers your favorite food, waits for you at night, gets jealous when women talk to you, and apparently tracks your working hours. You're exaggerating. I'm not. She cares because we're married. Daniel stared at me. That's what you're telling yourself? Yes. He shook his head. You're both idiots. I ignored him, but his words stayed with me. A few days later, I had to travel for an important business meeting. I was halfway through packing when Sophia appeared. Where are you going? New York. For how long? 2 days. I'll come with you. I looked at her. Why? Our marriage requires public appearances. This is a business trip, and you don't need to come. She crossed her arms. I already decided. I smiled. Fine. The flight was surprisingly quiet. Sophia sat beside me and spent most of the time looking out the window. You're nervous, I said. No. You are. I'm not. Then why are you holding your seat like that? She looked down. Her fingers immediately relaxed. Maybe I don't like flying. You've flown hundreds of times. Not beside you. I looked at her. She quickly turned toward the window. What did you say? Nothing. When we arrived at the hotel, we discovered a problem. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Carter. What happened? There was a booking error. Sophia frowned. What kind of error? We only have one suite available. I looked at Sophia. She looked at me. One suite? I asked. Yes. With one bedroom? The receptionist nodded. Sophia's face turned bright red. Absolutely not. I laughed nervously. Is there another hotel? Everything nearby is booked because of the conference. Sophia looked at me. We'll take it. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes. The suite was large, with a living room separating the bedroom. Sophia immediately pointed toward the couch. You sleep there. Obviously, she disappeared into the bathroom. When she returned, she was wearing simple pajamas. I looked away. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing. You're acting strange. I'm trying to respect our rules. She smiled. Good. We sat on opposite sides of the room. After several minutes, Sophia spoke. Ethan? Yes. Do you ever feel safe with someone? I looked at her. What do you mean? She lowered her eyes. I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who wanted something from me. She paused. With you, I don't feel that. I stayed quiet. You make me feel safe. My heart tightened. Sophia. I don't know why. She looked at me. Sometimes when I'm with you, I forget that we're pretending. I stood slowly. She did too. We were suddenly standing only inches apart. Neither of us moved. Her eyes dropped to my lips. My heart raced. I leaned closer. She didn't step away. For 1 second, I thought we were going to kiss. Then Sophia pulled back. No. I stopped. We can't. Why? The contract. I looked at her. Right. She stepped away. We agreed. No physical intimacy. No falling in love. She swallowed. Yes. The room became silent. I returned to the couch. Sophia walked into the bedroom. The lights went off. Minutes passed. I thought she was asleep. Then I heard her voice from across the room. Ethan? Yeah. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, I think something is wrong with me. I stared into the darkness. What do you mean? She didn't answer. And somehow, I already knew. The problem wasn't the contract. The problem was that neither of us wanted it anymore. After we returned from New York, Sophia changed. She became distant again. The woman who used to text me throughout the day suddenly stopped. She stopped waiting for me. She stopped asking about my work. She even returned to eating alone. At first, I thought she was angry with me. Then I realized she was afraid. Afraid of what had almost happened between us. I decided to give her space. But somehow, giving her space only made things worse. One evening, I came home and couldn't find her anywhere. I checked the living room. Nothing. Her office was empty. Then I noticed the garden lights were on. I walked outside. Sophia was sitting alone beside the fountain. Her shoulders were shaking. She was crying. I stopped. Sophia. She quickly wiped her face. Why are you here? I was looking for you. You found me. I sat beside her. You've been avoiding me. I've been busy. You're crying. I said I'm fine. You're not. She looked away. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, I don't know what's happening to me. I looked at her. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. I've never trusted anyone. Why? Because everyone wants something. She laughed bitterly. My money. My father's approval. My family name. My connections. She looked at me. Every man I've ever met knew exactly who I was before he knew me. I stayed silent. You were different. How? You didn't care. I didn't know who you were. Exactly. She smiled sadly. You spoke to me like I was ordinary. You are ordinary. She laughed through her tears. That's probably the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. I smiled. I meant it. She looked down at her hands. When I'm with you, I don't have to be Sophia Sterling. Then who are you? Just Sophia. I nodded. That's who I've always seen. Her eyes filled with tears again. I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything. What if I lose you? The question caught me off guard. You're not losing me. Our contract ends eventually. I looked away. She noticed. Ethan? I know. What happens then? I don't know. Her expression changed. Would you stay? I looked at her. I honestly don't know. Silence. I immediately regretted my answer. Sophia looked down. Right. Sophia. No. She stood. I understand. You asked me a question, and you answered honestly. I don't want to hurt you. You didn't. But her voice told me otherwise. She turned away. I stood. Sophia. She stopped. I care about you. She looked back. How much? I couldn't answer. Because the truth frightened me. More than I wanted to admit. She stepped closer. I almost told you something in New York. What? I almost said. She stopped. What? She shook her head. Nothing. Sophia. I can't. Why? Because if I say it, everything changes. I looked at her. Maybe everything has already changed. Her eyes filled with tears. She took one step toward me, then another. Suddenly, she wrapped her arms around me. I froze. Sophia pressed her face against my chest. She was trembling. I slowly placed my arms around her. She held me tighter. Please. Her voice cracked. Please don't make me fall in love with you. My heart stopped. She pulled back slightly. I've spent my whole life trying not to need anyone. I looked into her eyes. And now I need you. She wiped away her tears. That scares me. I gently touched her face. You don't have to be afraid. What if you leave? I won't leave tonight. But someday. I had no answer. She closed her eyes. That is what scares me most. I held her closer. For the first time, I understood something I had been refusing to admit. The idea of losing Sophia hurt. Not because of the contract, not because of the money, not because she was a billionaire heiress, because somewhere along the way, she had become part of my life. And I was beginning to realize that I didn't want a life without her. But neither of us was brave enough to say the words that were already living between us. I knew something had changed the moment Richard asked me to meet him alone. He stood in his private office, staring through the glass wall at the city below. "Sit down, Ethan." I remained standing. "Why did you call me here?" Richard turned slowly. "Because I have discovered what you and Sophia have been doing." I frowned. Doing? Falling in love? The words hit harder than I expected. I said nothing. Richard walked toward me. "This marriage was supposed to be temporary. A business arrangement. Somehow, you have convinced my daughter that it means something. I never convinced Sophia of anything." "Then end it." I stared at him. "You're asking me to divorce your daughter?" "I'm ordering you." His voice became colder. "If you refuse, your company will disappear." My hands tightened into fists. "You can't destroy something I built with my own hands." Richard smiled without warmth. "I can destroy anything that stands between me and my daughter's future." I left his office angry, but I refused to tell Sophia what had happened. I knew she would confront her father, and that could make things worse. Unfortunately, Richard was not the only person moving against us. Alexander began spreading rumors. At first, I ignored them. Then Emily called me. "Ethan, have you heard what people are saying?" "What?" "They're saying you married Sophia because you wanted access to her money." I laughed bitterly. "That's ridiculous. It's spreading everywhere." By evening, the rumor had reached investors, business partners, and even people inside my company. Alexander had planted the story carefully. He told everyone that I had entered Sophia's life with one goal: to become rich. And because people already knew I had started with almost nothing, the lie sounded believable. When I returned to the mansion, Sophia was waiting for me. She looked different, cold, distant. "Where were you?" "Handling a problem at the company." She looked away. "Is the problem money?" I immediately understood. "Who told you that?" "That doesn't matter." "It matters to me." Sophia stood. "Ethan, maybe everyone was right." My heart sank. "About what?" "About us." I stepped closer. "Sophia, look at me." She did, but her eyes were filled with fear. "My father threatened you, didn't he?" I froze. "What did he say?" "Nothing." "Ethan." I sighed. "He said he would destroy my company if we stayed married." Her face went pale. "And you didn't tell me?" "Because I didn't want you fighting with your father." She shook her head. "You don't understand him." "I understand him enough." "No, you don't." Her voice cracked. "He will hurt you. He can try." "You're not listening." She suddenly turned away. "I want to end the marriage." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "What?" "I want a divorce." I searched her face, hoping she would take the words back. "Is this because of your father?" "No." "Then why?" "Because this is becoming dangerous." I stepped backward. "So you're choosing fear?" "I'm choosing you." "That doesn't feel like it." Her eyes filled with tears, but she forced them back. "I'm sorry." I swallowed the pain rising in my throat. "You know what hurts most?" She remained silent. I could have accepted losing the marriage. I looked directly at her. "But I never thought I would lose you because you were afraid to stand beside me." Her lips trembled. "Ethan, no." I shook my head. "I'm not going to beg you." She looked shocked. "I thought you loved me." "I do." "Then fight for us." "I've been fighting." She whispered, "I'm sorry." I turned toward the door. "Then this is goodbye." I walked away before she could see the tears in my eyes. Outside, the night air felt brutally cold. I had entered that mansion believing I had finally found someone who saw me for who I was. Now I was leaving with nothing except my pride. I drove back to my apartment and sat alone in the darkness. My phone kept buzzing. I ignored it. I knew I had to rebuild again. If Richard wanted to destroy my company, he could try. If Alexander wanted to destroy my reputation, he could try that too. But neither man would decide my worth. I had built my life before Sophia. I would rebuild it again. Back at the mansion, Sophia finally collapsed. She locked herself in her room and cried until her chest hurt. Claire found her sitting on the floor. "What did you do?" Sophia looked up. I ended it. Claire stared at her. You ended what? My marriage. Claire's expression hardened. You love him. Sophia covered her face. I had to protect him. No, Claire said. You were protecting yourself from being afraid. Sophia shook her head. My father will destroy him. Maybe. But Ethan was willing to face him. I couldn't let him suffer because of me. Claire knelt beside her. You already made him suffer. Sophia looked at her through tears. I didn't know what else to do. Yes, you did. Claire's voice softened. You could have trusted him. Sophia closed her eyes. I love him. The confession finally broke whatever strength she had left. I love him, Claire. I love Ethan so much that losing him feels worse than anything my father could do. Claire took her hand, then stopped running. Sophia reached for her phone. Her fingers trembled as she searched for my name. It was nearly midnight when my phone finally rang. I stared at the screen. Sophia. I almost let it ring. Then I answered. Hello. For several seconds, there was only crying. Sophia. Her voice finally came through, broken and trembling. Ethan. I sat upright. What happened? She tried to speak, but tears swallowed her words. Then she whispered the sentence that changed everything. Ethan, I lied. I don't want this marriage to end. I closed my eyes, and for the first time that night, I allowed myself to hope. But this time, I knew love alone would not be enough anymore. I returned to Sophia the next morning, but the words she had confessed still followed me through every room of the mansion. She stood near the window when I entered. You came back, she whispered. I said I would. Her eyes filled with relief. After everything I told you, I thought you might never want to see me again. I wanted to leave, I admitted, but leaving would have been easier than facing the truth. She stepped closer. Ethan, I love you. I love you too. Her face softened, but love alone won't solve everything. Her smile disappeared. What do you mean? Your father still controls half your life. Alexander is still planning something, and we don't know how deep their scheme goes. If we're going to stay together, we can't keep running from them. Sophia looked down, then slowly nodded. Then we fight. For your freedom, I said. Not just for our marriage. She reached for my hand. For my life. That afternoon, I called Daniel. I need you to investigate Sterling Industries, I said. Daniel paused. You finally decided to stop playing defense? Yes. Good. Because I already started. I raised an eyebrow. You did. I know you, Ethan. When you say you need help, it usually means trouble is already standing outside the door. Sophia sat beside me as Daniel opened his laptop. We found something strange, he said. Several transfers have been made from Sterling Industries accounts to companies that barely exist. Who authorized them? Sophia asked. Daniel displayed a list of signatures. Victor Hayes. Sophia's expression changed instantly. Father's financial advisor. Exactly, Daniel said. He's been moving money for months. Where did it go? Multiple shell companies. But there's a connection. Daniel clicked another file. Alexander Kane's name appeared. Sophia went completely still. Alexander? Daniel nodded. One of the shell companies is connected to an investment group secretly controlled by him. I leaned toward the screen. So Alexander isn't trying to marry me for influence. He's trying to control Sterling Industries, I said. And my father knows? We don't know yet, Daniel replied. Sophia looked at me. We need proof. We'll get it. Daniel and I worked through financial records, contracts, and old company reports. Sophia quietly obtained documents from inside Sterling Industries. Victor had been draining company funds and hiding losses. Alexander had been buying the damaged assets through other companies. Once Sterling Industries became financially weak enough, Alexander planned to step in as the only person capable of rescuing it. But there was another piece. Sophia's inheritance gave her voting control. If Richard forced her into an agreement with Alexander, Alexander would eventually control the company. He never wanted Sophia, I said. Daniel shook his head. He wanted her shares. Sophia heard us from the doorway, and my father wanted me to marry him because it protected the family. I turned toward her. You don't have to do what either of them wants. I know. Her voice was different now, stronger. That evening, Sophia walked into Richard's study. I followed her. Sophia placed the documents in front of him. Because I know what Victor has been doing. Richard's face hardened. You don't understand business. I understand enough. You're being manipulated by Ethan. No. Sophia's voice did not shake. Ethan, help me see what you refuse to show me. Richard stood. You think this boy knows more about running an empire than I do. I think he knows what trust means. You are throwing away everything I've built. No, she said. I'm refusing to let you use everything you've built to control me. His expression darkened. You have no idea what life is like without this family. I know exactly what it is like, Sophia replied. I've been living like a prisoner inside it. Richard slammed his hand against the desk. If you continue this, I will disown you. I looked at Sophia. This was the moment she had feared her entire life. I expected her to break. Instead, she reached for my hand. Then do it. Richard stared at her. Sophia, I don't need your money to know who I am. Her eyes became wet, but she refused to look away. I spent my whole life believing that losing this family meant losing everything. But I was wrong. She squeezed my hand. I still have myself. Richard looked at his daughter for a long moment. Then he walked away. The door slammed shut. Sophia finally exhaled. I was terrified. So was I. She looked at me. But you stayed. I always will. She smiled through her tears. I don't want a fake marriage anymore. Neither do I. She stepped closer and rested her forehead against mine. Then let's build something real. I wrapped my arms around her. But before we could celebrate, Daniel called. Ethan, you need to see this. I answered immediately. What happened? We found another account. Whose? Daniel's voice dropped. Richard's. Sophia looked at me. What does that mean? I don't know yet. Daniel continued. But the account received a huge payment from Alexander's company the same week your father signed the marriage agreement. Sophia's face went pale. Ethan. I held her hand tighter. Whatever happened next, we would face it together. Richard had threatened to take everything from her. Alexander had planned to take control of her future. But neither of them understood the woman Sophia had become. She looked at me and smiled. I chose you, and I choose you. Then the phone rang again. This time, it was Richard. Sophia answered. His voice was cold. If you choose Ethan, you lose everything. Sophia looked directly into my eyes. Then she took my hand. Then I'll lose everything. And for the first time, I knew she meant it. The truth finally came out 3 days later. Victor Hayes had been moving Sterling Industries' money through shell companies while Alexander secretly controlled those companies. Their plan had been simple. Weaken the company, create a financial crisis, and make Alexander appear to be its only possible savior. But they had made one mistake. They underestimated Daniel. When the evidence was presented to the board, Victor had nowhere left to hide. I didn't steal anything, Victor insisted. I was following instructions. Richard stood across the conference room. Whose instructions? Victor looked at Alexander. Alexander's face went pale. You were supposed to keep quiet, Alexander whispered. Victor laughed bitterly. You promised to protect me. I never promised anything. The board members exchanged shocked looks. Daniel placed another folder on the table. We have bank records, emails, and signed contracts connecting both of you to the shell companies. Alexander suddenly looked at me. This is your fault. I shook my head. No, Alexander. This is the result of your own choices. Sophia stood beside me. You tried to destroy my family's company so you could control it. Alexander looked at her. I loved you. No, Sophia replied. You loved what I owned. That sentence silenced the room. The investigation continued for several hours. By the end of the day, Victor was removed from his position, Alexander's financial scheme was exposed, and Sterling Industries was protected from the takeover. More importantly, every accusation against me was officially cleared. Richard approached me after everyone left. I owe you an apology. I looked at him. You owe Sophia one too. His eyes lowered. I know. For the first time, Richard looked tired instead of powerful. I thought controlling her was protecting her. You were protecting your empire. He didn't argue. I pushed her away, he admitted. Yes. He looked towards Sophia, who was standing near the window. I never realized how much she hated being controlled. She didn't hate you, I said. She hated who she had to become around you. Richard nodded slowly. I may have lost my daughter long before she walked away. Sophia heard him. She turned toward him. You haven't lost me. Richard looked surprised. But I need you to accept that I'm an adult. His eyes filled with regret. I will try. Sophia gave him a small smile. That is all I ever wanted. Later that night, Sophia and I returned to the mansion. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. I sat on the edge of the sofa, while Sophia poured 2 glasses of water. She handed one to me. You're thinking too much. I smiled. Maybe. About us? I looked at her. Yes. Her smile disappeared. What are you afraid of? I hesitated. Our relationship started with a contract. She sat beside me. I know. What if what we feel isn't real? Sophia stared at me. What makes you think it isn't? Because when we met, you needed a fake husband. I needed money to save my company. We both had reasons. She slowly placed her glass on the table. Ethan, do you really think I fell in love with you because of a contract? I don't know. She moved closer. I did. I looked at her. What? I fell in love with you before our first month ended. My heart stopped. You're serious? I knew something was wrong when I started caring about whether you had eaten. I laughed softly. That was your first sign? No. She smiled. My first sign was jealousy. Jealousy? You remember Emily? I raised an eyebrow. You were furious whenever she talked to me. I was not furious. You almost broke a glass. I was holding it too tightly. I laughed. Sophia covered her face. I was ashamed. Of being jealous? Of needing someone. She lowered her hands. I had spent my entire life believing that needing people made you weak. So I pretended I didn't care. You fooled me. I was trying to fool myself. I looked at her for several seconds. I loved you too. Her eyes widened. You did. I just didn't know if you loved me or the husband you created in that contract. Sophia reached for my hand. I never loved the contract. She squeezed my fingers. I loved the man who stayed when I pushed him away. My throat tightened. I loved the woman who slowly stopped pretending she was made of ice. She smiled. Then we're both terrible actors. The worst. She stood and walked toward the cabinet. I watched as she opened it and pulled out a small wooden box. My heart immediately recognized it. The contract. She brought it to the table. Inside was the original agreement we had signed when everything began. 1 year. Separate lives. No real feelings. No expectations. A temporary marriage. Sophia looked at the papers. I hated these rules. You created most of them. I know. She laughed softly. Because I was scared. Then she looked at me. I don't want another year of pretending. She tore the first page. I stared at her. Sophia. She tore it again. And again. The contract fell apart in her hands. This isn't our marriage anymore. She dropped the pieces onto the table. This is... She touched my chest. What we feel is real. I stood. So what happens now? She stepped closer. We get married. We're already married. No. She smiled. That was a transaction. She wrapped her arms around my neck. I want a real marriage. My eyes burned. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. I pulled her close. For the first time, I don't feel like I'm marrying a billionaire heiress. She smiled. And I don't feel like I'm marrying a man I had to save. We stood together in silence. Then Sophia looked at the torn contract. She picked up the final piece and held it between her fingers. Her expression suddenly became serious. Ethan? Yes. If I had never been a billionaire. She looked directly into my eyes. Would you still marry me? I didn't answer immediately, because I knew whatever I said next would change everything. The morning after I finally admitted what I felt, Sophia stood beside the mansion window, watching the city wake beneath us. I need to ask you something, she said. What? If I had never been a Sterling, if I had no money, no mansion, no family name, would you still choose me? I walked toward her. Sophia, I would choose you if you had nothing. I would choose you if we lived in a tiny apartment and counted every dollar. I would choose you without the Sterling name because I never fell in love with your wealth. Her eyes filled with tears. Then why did you stay? Because somewhere between pretending to be your husband and pretending not to care, you became the person I wanted beside me. She laughed softly through her tears. You make it sound so simple. It was never simple, but loving you became easy. She took my hand. Come with me. Where? Where this all started. I knew exactly what she meant. We returned to the small private room where she had first offered me our fake marriage. The same room where lawyers had placed contracts between us. The same room where we had promised to survive 1 year without falling in love. But this time, there were no lawyers, no contracts, no witnesses demanding signatures. Sophia walked inside wearing a simple white dress. There was nothing extravagant about it. No diamonds covering her neck. No designer jewelry demanding attention. Just Sophia. She stopped in front of me. I used to think love meant surrendering control, she whispered. I watched my parents destroy each other, and I decided I would never give anyone enough power to hurt me. I know. So I created rules. Separate rooms. No questions. No feelings. 1 year. I smiled. And you broke every rule. All of them, she admitted. She stepped closer. The worst part is that I broke them before the first month ended. My heart tightened. You loved me that early? She looked down. I was terrified of it. Why? Because you were the first person who made me feel safe without asking me for anything. I gently lifted her chin. Sophia, love isn't control. Then what is it? Choice. She stared at me. Choosing someone when you don't have to. Choosing them when life becomes difficult. Choosing them again tomorrow and the day after that. That's love. She smiled. Then I choose you. I took her hands. And I choose you. We exchanged our vows without anyone forcing us. I promise to never use your fear against you, Sophia said. I promise to tell you the truth, even when I'm afraid. I promise to stand beside you because I want to, not because a contract tells me to. My voice shook when it was my turn. I promise to love you without trying to own you. I promise to respect your choices, your dreams, and your independence. And I promise that no matter how successful we become, I will always remember the woman I met before I knew what her family name meant. Sophia cried openly. So this is our real marriage? I smiled. This is our first real beginning. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she wrapped her arms around me. I love you. I love you too. The words felt different this time. They weren't part of a performance. They weren't spoken for her father, the lawyers, or the business world. They belonged only to us. Richard eventually accepted our relationship, although our reconciliation was far from perfect. He met me at the company office several weeks later. I still don't understand you, he said. You don't have to. You could have taken advantage of Sophia. I never wanted her money. He studied me for a long moment. I know that now. It wasn't an apology. Not completely, but it was the closest thing to peace he could offer. My company continued growing through my own work. Investors came because they believed in what I had built, not because Sophia's family opened doors for me. The first time our company reached a major milestone, I looked at the numbers and remembered the man I had been before our fake marriage. I had started with almost nothing, a borrowed laptop, a small idea, a stubborn dream. Sophia had never created my success. She had simply become the person cheering loudest when I succeeded. One evening, we stood together on the balcony of our new home. Sophia leaned against my shoulder. Do you ever think about that 1-year contract? All the time. You know what's funny? What? I was so confident I could survive 1 year without falling in love. And you lasted? She laughed. Not even 1 month. I kissed her forehead. I didn't do much better. She looked up at me. So you fell first? I'll never admit that. You just did. I said nothing. You absolutely did. We laughed together. The mansion behind us was beautiful, but for the first time, it didn't feel important. The money didn't matter. The family name didn't matter. The contract didn't matter. Only the choice we had made mattered. Our fake marriage had started as a transaction between two frightened people who believed love was dangerous. It ended as something neither of us had planned. Something real. Something free. For once, neither of us was afraid of what tomorrow might bring. Sophia once promised that our fake marriage would last 1 year. She had been wrong. She fell in love before the first month ended. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, I had fallen in love with her too. Not because she was a billionaire heiress. Not because she had a famous family. Not because she could change my life with money. I loved her because she chose me when she finally understood she didn't have to. And I chose her for exactly the same reason. Every day, for the rest of our lives.